Everyone, let's have a long Easter weekend vlog. It's Friday lunch-ish. I started the day by finishing Winter Love in bed. I really don't know how I got into getting this book, but I love the cover. Just look at it. This was written in the 1960s and it plays in the last months of the war, the Second World War in London. And we follow the story, or we have Red, one of the main characters, remember her love affair to one of her classmates, Mara. And this is capturing 1 year in their life, how they met, how they fell in love, how they had an affair, and the troubles and struggles they had. As you can already tell, this is at the end of the Second World War, so there are a lot of problems and challenges that two women in love have to face. One of them is that Mara is married to a rich man and they also come from different classes, have different money backgrounds. There's also the struggle with falling in love with a woman and feeling for women and how to treat each other. All of that is captured in here. But also we see the woman writing down the story years later, telling from the beginning that it was a love affair. We know where she is now in her life and how happy or unhappy she is and how she remembers this time in her life as part of the best months and moments in her life. And it's beautifully written. It's so captivating. It's really easy to go along and you follow her in making mistakes and doing stupid things, regretting them now. You can see how she was pushed into that in the past and how the situation they were in developed and evolved and how you wish for them for a better or different turnout. I really enjoyed this and I highly recommend it. Not only because it's a beautiful cover, it's a fast read and beautiful story. As my week has been off in exercise already, I'm off to go for a run today. I don't know how far, just a little bit probably, but nothing is going according to plan this week, or rather this whole month. I'm currently listening to Marcel's and I think this is going to be a lovely enemy to lovers situation. It started off in London sometime in the future when half of London is already flooded, and we're following January, our main protagonist, who's a ballet dancer, and we start off at the London theatre with them practicing, but then they get trapped there as more flooding arises and then they have to flee England or London, and then months later we meet him again at Mars or on Mars as a refugee and immigrant working, and there are power struggles between Earth-strong people, as I call them, and natural people on Mars, because Mars has been colonized for some generations already, and due to the different gravity, the bone density and strength of the people born on Mars, the natural Mars people, the naturalized people, they are much lighter and softer, and so the Earth-strong people, that's the immigrants from Earth, who are stronger and have a thicker bone density, are a danger to the natural Mars population because they can easily kill them by touch. So they have to wear some kind of cage that makes movement harder and protects the normal people. But still accidents happen, and this is part of the main storyline where we get started in that there's a politician, Gale, who really wants everyone to naturalize. So there is some kind of transformation that Earth-strong people can undergo, and then they become like the, let's call them Martians. They're not Martians, but let's call them that. And that has a lot of health risks and dangers attached to it, but also benefits of being a citizen, and then you live a much better life and have more rights also to an office job. Right now, our main character, January, can only work in a factory, and then there the politician comes and they get paired up for an interview, and of course the politician is smarter and tricks him into saying something stupid, so his life spirals out of control because he ends up in jail for threatening the politician, even though it was a sarcastic joke. And the story progresses in the political situation a little bit more. You get more known about January, who gets out of jail and then thinks about, maybe I should naturalize because there's no way he can get any other job without. So he's kind of forced into that. But then all of a sudden Gale shows up at his house and is like, oh, I didn't know you had trouble because of what we did, and I offer you a solution. Let's get married for 5 years. So that's where I'm at. They're currently in the marital process, and it's kind of weird. We know that Gale has really nationalist ideas, and we know that January doesn't really want to get married and really doesn't like Gale and doesn't know Gale for whatever. They haven't really spent any time together. But January feels a little bit like a lost puppy who's easy to attach his love onto people who are good to him. And Gale, being one of the richest people on the planet and doing this for his political gain, of course, is seemingly nice in parts, but his political agenda is horrible. So that's where I'm not really sure where we're going. But the relationship as it starts off right now, I can see that something is happening. And I can already tell that they are ending up together. Definitely enemy to lovers. But I'm also curious because I have the feeling that January isn't really interested in relationships or sex. There were some mentions that he could be an asexual character, but I have no clue yet. Like I said, I'm just at the beginning. So it is rather enjoyable. Let's see how it goes on. I'll tell you more once I'm back from my run and what else I'm doing this weekend. I really don't know. I want to finish a lot of things and get some stuff organized. March was going to be catch up and reset months, but so far things have gone downhill all the way. So let's see. March has 3 more days left. I can do that, right? Talk to you later. That was not expected. I completely got distracted from what I wanted to read this afternoon and started sampling The Emperor of the Endless Palace. And I was attracted by the cover. I don't even know where I saw it on Storygraph. Why did it show it to me? I don't remember. But the cover got my attention, so I started looking into it and I started reading it. And I am a little bit put off by the amount of sex, and I am not completely 100% into the writing. But I am intrigued by the idea of eternal love over generations. I'm completely a sucker for that. But then I discovered that there is a short story that is a Chinese short story that is talking about 2 of the storylines that are not the present ones, but in the past. And now I'm confused because then I started looking up the reviews because I'm not sure if I want to buy this and read the rest of the book. I read the first 4 chapters. That was all I got for the free sample. And I'm not sure. It's kind of captivating and really fast-paced. I'm all into that. I'm not really in the mood to read about graphic sex or a lot of sex. I don't mind if it's mentioned, but I don't want descriptions right now. And the reviews all talk about it as erotica. They also say it's more about revenge than a love story, and it doesn't have a happy ever after. I'm a sucker for happy ever afters. So I really don't know where I want to go with this. I'm mostly confused that no one mentions that it's probably a retelling or is based on this short story because, the characters have the same names. So now I'm confused if I want to read the short story first. I should have just read Passage to India, but I'm not really enjoying that. But I want to finish it. Yeah, I guess I'll have food and see if I can get the short story for free somewhere on the internet. And then decide whether I want to continue a male erotica timeline, 3 generations or 3 different reborn session romance, which apparently is not a romance. Yeah, off to a good start for this weekend. Sorry for the bad quality. I was just feeling like chatting and not looking for my camera. Sunday morning, and I was once again reminded today that I cannot hack my way into 9-to-5 life. I'm just not made for it. I had my first proper morning workout, strength exercise, like a half-hour video with weights, and it felt so good, but I haven't had the energy or time to do it in quite a while before work. So, yeah, then we leave it at that, because I still have to work, I still have to go to this job, because financial dependency, that's how they get you. Anyways, reading. As I mentioned yesterday, I was a little bit trapped in, will I get to this book? Will I continue to read it? And who was I kidding? Why was I even sidetracked in researching anything? I was already hooked by the cover and then the premise. And even though I didn't exactly love the writing, I was so interested in the story. So of course I got the book. And yes, there is a short story that is similar to the characters, or definitely a inspiration for one of the storylines, but who cares? I read that. Now I have 600 pages of Chinese short stories classics on my Kindle that I can read throughout the year. Anyways, back to the book. The Emperor of the Endless Palace is a story told in 3 timelines. So we have something, or a storyline for BCE, then we have a storyline around 1740, and we have a storyline around the present day. And we're alternating chapters. So we started off in 1740, then we go to 4 BCE, and then we go to the present. And it keeps rotating in the same order at the moment. I'm about 120 pages in, which is a third of the book. And in each storyline, we follow a main character and his adventures. It's not really adventures, it's their lives. And in 4 BCE, we're at the court and we follow a clerk at the Emperor's Palace, the Endless Palace. And I think that's the main storyline where everything started, but I have no clue yet. But because it's called The Emperor and the Endless Palace, it's kind of a clue, as the other 2 storylines are not connected to an emperor or an endless palace yet. So this clerk we're following, or this official, is trying to get ahead and is very ambitious. He's using his talents, which apparently is flirting and sleeping with everybody, and also his literary wit to get ahead and try to weasel his way into everyone. There is the grandmother of the emperor is trying to scheme as well. There are some schemes and drama and intrigue going on, and she's using him, or wants to use him, to get nearer or control the emperor. I'm not actually sure what she wants him to do, but he wants him to befriend the emperor, and somehow that's going to be good for the emperor. So it's also going to be good for the clerk. But I don't really know how the story is going further, because that's where I am at the moment. They just met, they got along, they're about the same age, and they had a fun interchange about poetry. In the story about 1740, we follow a young man who is meeting a fox spirit. This is a storyline that is a short story that I stumbled across from the old Chinese poets, and that is that this innkeeper is also attracted by men. All of the storylines focus on gay relationships. So the innkeeper discovered that he is more interested in men very young, and that got him into trouble with his family. 1740, what would you expect? And so he left his family, started to work somewhere, and currently he's having an inn in the outskirts of a town, and he has been wandering to the forest for his whole life because he's searching for something, but he doesn't really know what. And in this story part, there's a young man with his grandmother passing by, and his grandmother is sick, so he asked the innkeeper to help him to talk to this doctor who he is familiar with, or who he knows and is known to have a good relationship with, to help him to help his mother. And all signs lead to that the young man, not the grandmother, but the young man is a fox spirit. So we're not really sure how it's going there, because I just learned the backstory that what happened between the doctor and the innkeeper, and the doctor is really, oh my god, you met a fox bird, and the innkeeper is, no, I did not. So we don't know. The present day is set in LA, and it starts off with basically a party, Yellow Peril? Something about Lunar New Year's Eve, and a big party for all the gay Asian men and people interested in Asians, as far as I remember it. And there our main character, River, goes and hooked up on Grindr with someone who takes him to the party, and he's very new to all the scenes, so he doesn't really know what he's doing. And then he is taking ecstasy for the first time, feels sick, and is rescued by some guy on the toilet, taking him away and giving him some peaceful rest time. That's not a euphemism. They actually just sit there and talk. And so they strike up a instant attraction and friendship sort of thing, and they end up at this huge major private party of some tech hero. I don't know any of these names. I think they're all made up. And that's where we're at right now. It's the day after the big peril party and the after peril party, and we're at home, and we learned that the guy he met he's interested in is probably a call boy. They said money boy. Apparently that's an Asian expression. I have no idea. But basically it's a paid escort. And so, not sure where that is going. But I am hooked by the story. The story is supposed that all these three storylines are connected, and it's always the same, what is it, eternal souls or so, when you have the same reincarnation of yourself and the same relationship. So I'm curious how that is going to go, because all of them seem to form connections with each other, and that part I like. The sex hasn't been back, so I don't know, maybe the erotica will get worse later on, as I said in the reviews, or it was exaggerated. We'll see. For today, I'm going to have breakfast now, and it's going to be warm. They said it's going to be warm. So I want to go on a very long walk outside and listen to Mouse House a little bit more. I really like that story. It's really captivating. So I'll tell you more about the story once I've done that. Yes. Sunday afternoon, let's have a check-in again. Yesterday I went for my walk. It wasn't sunny at all. It wasn't warm. It was rather depressing. I turned up to be rather overwhelmed by everything and didn't feel like doing anything anymore. So I listened to quite a bit more of the Mass House. So I have about 3 hours left in the story, or 3 hours to listen to. And things are interesting. A lot of the stuff that is happening is in January's head. So our main character is our narrator, so we have his information only. And it is confusing because you can see him wanting to trust the senator, but at the same time, the senator is also, with his political ideas, conflicting, let's say it like that. And so it's really confusing. At the same time, the main character, January, trusts the consul. I'm getting very confused why January has such a big problem in trusting Gale, who's always nice to him and shows him who he is, or sort of a version of who he is, but he still thinks he might have murdered his ex. And at the same time, he trusts the consul, who is, I find, very obviously not a trustworthy person, and maybe not as nice a person as they pretend to be. They are overstepping boundaries all the time, and manipulative, definitely manipulative. And I find it very interesting that just the last part that I listened to, the consul calls Gale manipulative, because I think he's more manipulative than Gale, the senator, as far as I've seen. So that is a very confusing part, and we've reached a point where something is going to happen and move things forward. A lot of political drama is happening, climate drama is happening, and all the situations. I find it all very captivating. It's very fast-paced. It's very easy to listen to. I think it's also very interesting, the linguistic aspects of the whole Mars colony, or the life city on Mars, and then also the society they build. There's a lot of world building in there that just trickles in. So it's not a big info dump at the beginning. There was some info dump at the beginning because you have to start somewhere, but things get added on. And I really enjoy that part, how the world is filling with more information and background as I keep listening to the story. The relationship between Gale, the senator, and January, like I said, it's confusing because you can see that January wants to trust him and wants a relationship, but at the same time, he's reluctant to really give into what he thinks and his instincts. And I'm not sure. I'm still not sure if I am being manipulated into liking the nationalist who wants to transfer or naturalize all the Earth-strong people and take the risk of genetically manipulating them and crippling them. But on the other side, the other person, the console, is not much better. So I don't have a clue of what would be the best solution. So it's really fascinating to watch that. Also, what's going on in my head while I'm listening to that. So that's very interesting. I'm hoping to get 3 more hours of listening in tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure I'm going to do it that. But let's see. The same for The Emperor and the Endless Palace. It's very captivating. I can just keep page turning. I have about 100 pages left, so it's a little bit less than a third. And it is fascinating. You have these short chapters alternating through these 3 timelines, and you get more and more information about the characters in each timeline. You get more information about the relationships that are going on, and things are reaching a crescendo, and there have been a lot of ups and downs and things that are confusing, and I find myself really drawn into what is going on. I'm still not particularly 100% in love with the writing style, but I do like how format and tense is used. The present chapters are mostly written in present tense. At some point, we've also started seeing where things connect and the timelines are connecting, and that is fascinating to see. I'm really curious to see how things are going on, and I want a happy end, but I kind of know there's none, so not sure about that one. But I think the 100 pages, finishing that tomorrow will not be a problem. So I will finish the vlog as soon as both of the stories are done, so that you have a closure and a final comment on that. Now, I'm confused with all the time change. We switched to summertime today. I went on a nice long bike ride, but now I'm tired and confused of what time it is. Yeah, that's what changing to summertime does. Anyways, I'll talk to you tomorrow once I'm finished with everything. Sunday morning. Those who don't sleep get to read. I finished The Emperor and the Endless Palace in bed already. It's early morning and I'm about to go running, but I wanted to tell you my final thoughts. I really enjoyed the pacing of the whole thing. The ending, as I expected or was forewarned by reading reviews, was tragic and not a happy ending. I wasn't as mad as I usually would get because I was forewarned, but I prefer happy endings, and I could have seen a happy ending there, but it's okay like this. It does make sense. Anyways, I really liked how each of the storylines ended and how they connected and how they showed the tragedy of their endless love story and the problems and the struggles they have. I think the ending in the present time was a little bit rushed, and it did feel a little bit superficial. It could have gone deeper, but it's okay. Nothing majorly to criticize in a debut novel. And I must say that I should have read the acknowledgements instead of going for reviews to find out if this is a retelling of the short story. Because in the acknowledgements, he mentioned that he was inspired by this short story, but also the storyline, the 4 BCE, the characters there apparently were real people too. I have to Google that later. But that is interesting. So the present time seems to be the only storyline that he didn't base on anything but experience and life, but those 2 combinations of a real event and then the short story, which is a classic already, combining that into this epic lifetime's love story, or rather love story over different times, I really enjoyed that. So despite I was a little bit weary in the beginning, I enjoyed this. And I also have to say that reading reviews before finishing the book is really not my thing. The erotica that everybody mentioned is a little bit exaggerated. Yes, there's sex, and yes, he uses his thesaurus very much to describe it. I didn't think it that much, so I enjoyed it. I'm happy to be sidetracked by the cover, which I still think is gorgeous. So I guess I was happy with my weekend read. I'll let you know once I finish The Mars House. I'm not expecting to go running for 3 hours now. It's cold, I'm lazy, and I'm kind of tired because I didn't sleep. But I'll tell you once I'm finished. Okay, let's quickly finish up the vlog with the awful phone camera where I never know where to look. I actually cleaned my house to listen to the rest of the audiobook. I loved Ma's house. The whole thing got really, really action-packed, and there were twists and turns and things I really didn't see coming. I highly enjoyed it. The outcome was perfect. The writing really flows, and you were just in the story the whole time, and I really loved the characters. I loved the world building. I loved everything about it. The audiobook, though, I have to admit, some of the world building flew by me, and I also wasn't always sure who's talking. But that could be me not paying much attention while I was listening to those points, or lacking the ability to flip back. Just as a warning, if you have struggle keeping people apart when you listen to audiobooks and getting details, then I would rather read the book than listen to it. But I definitely recommend all the books I talked about in this vlog, and I'll thank you all for watching. Let me know if you've read either of them, have heard of them. Are you interested? Are you interested now? Or whatever you've done this weekend. It's been a long Easter weekend. I really enjoyed the time off. I think I need more time off, but we never get enough time off, do we? Unless we're rich. But since we're not, we have to go back to work tomorrow. Let's talk in comments. Bye-bye.